All right, so let's go ahead and rock and roll. We'll get started. I am going to share my screen, and what we'll do is actually my screen is being shared. Let me switch over to PowerPoint. What I'm going to do is the PowerPoint always messes with dual monitors. I don't know what the heck Microsoft is doing there, so I'm not actually going to show it in presenter mode, but it looks like you're not seeing my screen, are you? Can you see my PowerPoint? Let me stop and reshare.
I saw it.
You did?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so you can see PowerPoint right now?
Yep.
Oh, that's really weird. In OBS, it's not showing me. It's just a black background. Oh, there we go. I'm so glad Brian's always here for technical support. So today my name is Jason Barris again, and Brian is with us as well. He'll be on the Q&A and chat. So please use the chat to ask questions. It's going to be interactive. I'll read all the questions out loud. So in case someone does it to just internal or whatever, but we'll make it interactive. That's how we want this thing to go. What we're going to do is talk about new features in App Builder today, primarily around the new data grid configurator, which is pretty slick. And I think you'll see it's just exactly what it's advertised to be. Super easy way to configure your grid. And yeah, we just want to keep making this product easier and easier to help you build applications, very much focused on eliminating all that cost and time spent on the UI. Everyone will get a recording of the video along with the slides, but the slides aren't, they're not that dramatic, as you're going to see. Now, we have been talking about our Discord server for about a month now. Highly recommend you sign up. Brian is going to paste this link into the chat. But the Discord server allows you to actually interact right with the product team, with your bugs, your issues, your questions, blah, 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 blah. I mean, we're all on it. So, I mean, you've got the architects of the product. George is our UX lead on the product. Pablo is a lead developer. So, use Discord, ask questions, make suggestions, complain, do whatever you'd like. But I highly recommend that you check out Discord because it is a good way just to very quickly get answers and just interact with us in general. We want to interact with you. And to get this out of the way, because I already know that there's going to be like 5 questions about when is Blazor coming. In fact, there's going to be 50 because this is all anyone cares about is Blazor. Which is cool, but we currently support Angular in the app builder. All of the code generation is done in Angular, and as I've said before, the reason is because we have had Angular code generation for about 3 years now in our products, and it was easier for us to get that done first, and then we had Blazor on the roadmap, then React and Web Components. So Blazor is coming November 10th. And along with that, our Blazor product will also ship a bunch of new controls. There's about 15 or so new controls coming for Blazor. You'll be able to use App Builder to create screens, and then you'll just choose, do you want Angular? Do you want Blazor? And then a little bit later, you can say, I want React. But for the most part, what we've seen so far, our biggest market is Angular and Blazor. React is much smaller for us, but we're going to support all of these platforms moving forward. You also might be saying, wait a minute, that's kind of neat. You got 15 new controls coming, but there's a bunch of others that are missing. Yep, there is. There's probably about 30 more controls that we're going to just be releasing incrementally every month with our monthly releases, and we'll have that wrapped up by January, February. So that means there'll be 100% parity between the Angular controls and the Blazor controls and the React controls and the web component controls. So Blazor is coming. The way it's going to work is you design your app and you decide at that point, do I want to generate Blazor code? Do I want to generate Angular code? So I get emails from people and they say, oh, okay, well then I'm going to wait till November. Why are you going to wait till November? start using App Builder now. It's going to take you a while to learn it. It's going to take you a while to create your screens, and then the day we ship it, you just flip a bit and it just generates code. So I recommend you try that now. Some other big items on the roadmap. We have a new feature for digital assets, which is coming October 15th. This will allow you to take, like, for example, a sketch file, Adobe XD, whatever, upload it to our cloud, and then you have all the images and the digital assets in those files. So then you can use those in your application. Because the way App Builder works, it's a SaaS app, it's cloud-based. So how do I get like images into my app? Well, before or currently, you have to add a URL to point somewhere. This will allow you to do it much simpler and kind of contain it all within our cloud. So you can design your apps end to end, and you'll have all of your images and your data and whatever you want to generate your code. Also coming October 15th is Swagger support, or Google Open API is what it's now called. This will allow you to, when you add a REST data source, will ingest your Swagger API. We'll create all the endpoints for it and all the code to actually access those server endpoints in the app. So the data code generation becomes unbelievably powerful. It's already powerful. You'll see it today, but we're making huge improvements on this to allow you to do really great cloud-based applications. Adobe XD support comes December 1st. This will allow you to take an Adobe XD design from your design team and just flip it over into App Builder. They have to use our design system, of course, our UI kits, but it's the same way Sketch works today, just working for Adobe XD. And then a change coming in December, again, December 15th timeframe, before the end of the year. Basically, I put that there as a safety net. It'll ship, could ship December 15th or December 24th, but around the holiday season, right when everyone's going to be taking time off. We're going to flip from Flex Grid to CSS Grid inside of the product, which will make it better for responsive apps and probably easier to use as a developer, because you may be a little bit more familiar with CSS Grid. But anyway, these are all big items. I wanted to show this first to alleviate any of the questions that may come up through this. And of course, Blazor is always the biggest question. Quick refresh, and you'll see this. Our goal is to create this really VB ASP.NET web form-like experience of just WYSIWYG, drag and drop, create apps, and we generate the code. And then, of course, you're going to take that code and you're going to add your own stuff to it, your own maybe data, authentication, business logic, whatever. But as we know, as I've said before, the UI creation of an application takes anywhere from 60 to 80% of the time. And that's where the majority of bugs are. We can eliminate all that for you and really accelerate your delivery to market. So we can cut down weeks and months off of your dev time if you just start playing around with App Builder and see the power of it. Customizing data grids is today's topic. And I'm just going to jump right into a demo now. But the idea is every feature we're adding is designed to eliminate code that you would otherwise have to write. So let's move up my browser over. If you go to Infragistics.com, the drop down here, design and development, click Indigo.Design App Builder, and I end up at the App Builder page. Click sign in, and you can sign in with your Infragistics ID or Microsoft, Google, or Apple ID. I have already signed in, so it brings me into my App Builder workbench. As you know, we support image-based prototyping, code markup, usability tests. Security is through workspaces, so you can add as many workspaces as you want and just work in workspaces. I'm just going to work in my default My Projects because that's what I do. So in this demo, I'm going to go ahead and click New App. And this is a newly redesigned screen for New App. And you'll notice that the Create New Application dialog shows up, and I've got default layouts as my main entry point. For you, as the first time you use the product, you're going to be brought into sample apps because that's what we show first. And then wherever you left off, you're going to end up at that screen. If you want to import a sketch design, go ahead and click here and import that in. So sample apps, of course, we have a bunch of beautifully styled, stunning sample apps. Our goal is still by the end of the year to quadruple this and maybe have 15 or 30 more sample apps. We're just a little slow there. We're actually doing a couple things in the product to make it easier for all of our design teams to do it. And at the same time, we want to open this up. So we're working on a contest through Dribble, which is a design space where you can win prizes if you build sample apps for Indigo.Design and the app builder. And then your sample app could actually show up here inside a sample app. So stay tuned for information on that. And of course, the first people to know about it will be the ones on our Discord server. So make sure you check that out. So what I'm going to do is just create a layout with a couple tabs across the top. And as expected, I'm dumped right into my designer. I was on my data sources field last, but let's go up here. You can see we have all of our UI controls in the toolbox, and I've got my layouts with my content view. If I click preview, I'm inside of the running application, and you'll notice here that the HTML, TypeScript, and CSS is going to be for each page. So this is how it works. If I want to generate code for this, we've updated this to be very clear that clicking this button, you will publish right to GitHub, or click the drop down and just download a zip file and work on it locally. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to view 1 and I'm going to hit delete, and I'm actually going to kill this row layout, and I'm going to do Control E. So Control E gives you a pop-up dialog, which is the same list as your toolbox. So I could go down here and scroll down, and I could find a control like grid and drag it on, and then I see my grid, and you'll see you got some tooltips here. But I want to do Control E because once you start using the product, you'll see that it's super easy to add controls that way. So let me close out my tips. And what I'm going to do is make this take up the full screen. So I want this to grow, and I want it to shrink, and I want the width to be 100%. And I want the height to be 100%. So now I've got my grid. You probably notice there's something new here with the dots and the sort indicators. I'm going to go ahead and change this to my full Northwind customers data. I'm going to preview, and you can see that I've got my grid and I've got my code here on the right-hand side. And you'll notice some new things that are in the grid. Allow filtering equals true. Filter mode, Excel style filter. So to see how this works, let's publish this to GitHub. Let's call this webinar demo 2. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a unique name. Oh, of course not. How about 22? And we'll create the repo and we'll publish. And of course, this is going up to GitHub. Now you'll see it's published untitled app to GitHub. Here's my application. Let's go ahead and copy this. I'm going to open up VS Code, and I'm going to do Command Shift P. I'm going to do a git clone. My repo is demo 22. Let's stick it over here in my little folder, dev2. There's my location, and let's open this guy up. And what we're going to do is, yep, if we go into app, you'll see here in view 1, there's my grid. I've got data. I've got some properties set. So let's go to terminal. We'll do a new terminal. We'll do an npm install. So this is going to install all the dependencies for Angular. When we get to Blazor, the difference is I'll open this guy up in actual Visual Studio, and we'll have the full C# editor and all that other good stuff for Blazor. But this is all Angular. So we've got our TypeScript, and you can see in our TypeScript, or code behind for this, we are calling our get data method and subscribing to the full Northwind customers. And to find out where all that is at, if you go to services, you'll see here that we've got the data and we've got the service, which we're subscribing to actually see all that. So let's do an npm start, and all this is wired up for you. You don't have to do anything. So now this is doing this. So if the data grid is linked to a SQL system version table, does the data grid offer any features looking at the history? All of that would be in your code. So all we're doing is we're just, oh, Brian's actually answering it. Sorry, Brian. All we do is display the data that you tell us to display. So we are not going to, in the grid, do anything specific. If you have different versions of data, you're going to handle that through your code, or you're allowing users to view data. The one thing the grid does do really well is it has a feature called auto generate columns equals true. So let's say that in your versioned data, you have different column types or things changed, that would display correctly. So that's the answer for that one. So anyway, this is the new grid in terms of some of the features that we have now. So you'll notice here, I've got sorting enabled on columns. And as I click columns, I can do multi-column sorting. So things are actually in a sorted order just by doing a tri-state sort. So here, whoops, let me click this guy again. And you can see all my elf keys are up front. Now, if I click my hamburger menu, or that's the kebab, I think. The kebab menu, you'll see that I've got the Excel style filter. So this is all brand new, and it allows you now to have complete control over what you're actually showing inside the grid. So all of this is wired up. You don't have to write any additional code for this. And you can see doing things like select all filters. I can pin columns to the left, and you can see here now that I've got columns pinned over to the left. It makes it super easy. So now this is going to be the new default for the way that the grid is displayed. So now if I go back to App Builder, I'm just going to leave this running. I'm going to go back to App Builder. And what we did here is you'll notice on the lower right-hand side, we've got this features option for the grid. So this is custom properties specific for the grid. If we click if we look here, what's actually already done, we've got filtering and sorting enabled by default. And you'll notice Excel style is like a hyperlink. So if I click this, a dialog pops up to show me what the filter UI is that I want. So we have two filter UIs in the grid, Excel style filter, and then a quick filter row. So the UI will change immediately once I change it. You can see this is what this one looks like. And this is the kebab menu. Now I'm going to hit the plus sign. You can see now I've got all these new options for what I want to show. So let's go ahead and add a toolbar. Let's add grouping. Let's add column hiding, column moving, column pinning, all this good stuff. We can also add row actions, which is pretty slick. I'll throw that guy in. And you'll notice that some of these that I'm throwing in have the blue hyperlinks. So for column pinning, why don't we by default pin customer ID and shipper's name to the left? And I can click done here. And what you'll notice is that now, oh, and this is a little tip and trick. To move the canvas, I'm holding the space bar down and dragging with my mouse. So space and hold will allow me to move my canvas around. I can also do this, or I can use the scroll bars at the bottom. But you'll notice here that my items are pinned to the left, and those guys are already there. And if we do a preview, you can see it all shows up in the preview nicely. And you'll notice now as I hover over, I have my actions toolbar or row quick help. I forget what we actually call it. What did I call that? Let's go back to preview, back to the grid. My row actions. So row actions is slick. So if you're familiar with how Gmail works or SharePoint, as you hover over rows in the grid, you get additional features. That's what we're doing there. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this to GitHub. And this is going to be a new branch. And I'm just going to say updates to grid features. And we'll publish this guy. It's creating a pull request. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open this guy up. And you can see here's my pull request. I'm going to merge this pull request. So now all those changes are merged into master. I'm going to delete this branch. I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to refresh this guy. And now if we go back to our component, you're going to see that a bunch of new stuff was added. We've got a grid toolbar now added. Some additional features were added to the grid itself. And you can see some attributes were added to grid columns like movable equals true, groupable equals true. So if we just go back to our app here, let me hide this guy, move this guy. So let's go to the untitled app, do a actually it already did refresh. You can see now I've got my columns pinned to the left. I can do something like let's group by ship city. So I can drag ship city up to the group by area, and all of my grouping occurs. I can do column moving. So all of this is done without you doing any extra work. Now, there's obviously a couple features that we haven't implemented yet in the app builder, but the whole idea is that this is low code. So we're doing a bunch of stuff for you, and then you can go right into Visual Studio Code and add your code. So what I want to do here is on my toolbar, I've got my column pinning set up here, and I've got column hiding set up, but I want to add now export to Excel. So let's go ahead and add that in code. But before we do that, I want to highlight the right-hand part of the grid here, where you can see these grid actions. So I can delete a row, I can add a row, I can go into row edit mode, or I can pin a row. So this is all automatic. And also this actions row is customizable. So if you go look in the docs, you can see how to add your own buttons to this guy and do your own actions. So let's go into our code. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into app module. And this is just to show you how easy it is to add more features to the grid. So I want to add Excel, the Excel service. So I'm going to add as a provider the IG Excel exporter service. And you'll notice that it also now added it to the import statement here on my module. And I'm going to hit save there. So nothing happened yet, because what we got to do is go back to our view one component, and the Excel exporter service actually shows up here in my IG grid toolbar item. So because I am smart and you guys don't want to see me type, I've already typed this here, and I'm just going to paste it in. And the nice thing about this is the exporter has a couple options for you. So I don't want to export CSV. I just want to export Excel, and that's all you need to do. And let's just change this so you can see demo of grid. We'll change the toolbar or the grid title. Whoops. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So now it built. Let's go back into our browser. So now you'll see it says webinar demo of app builder. Over on the right-hand side, I've got export. Let's do an export to Excel. Boom, that exported my data. And you can see it's all perfectly exported. And this is what's even cooler, is that the columns that I had pinned are actually pinned. Now, if I go here and I do like, let's do a group by customer ID, and I do export to Excel. Let's open this guy up. And as you would expect, which no one else does, so people often ask, how are you better than so-and-so vendor? I mean, there's like 1,000 reasons for this grid besides it's the fastest grid around. But we do delighters like this, where when your users export their data, it's actually what the grid looks like. So it's not some CSV file, smoke and mirrors. We actually do a full export. But the point of this demo is just to show that it's super easy then to add much more robust grid features besides what we're already adding. And, takes 2 seconds. And if you really want to know how I learned how to do that, it was really easy. I went over here and I went to Ignite UI for Angular, and I scrolled down, and I just wanted to get into the samples, right? So I wonder if there's actually something that says, yeah, export to Excel. So I went to the export to Excel sample, which this was not the one I went to. I just did Excel in the quick search, and I did export to Excel from Data Grid. And this help topic told me exactly what to do. I added this, and this sample was slightly different. So you actually didn't even need that. And then I just added the button to the toolbar, and that was the 3 lines of code I needed to add. And then I get everything I need. So this is like a full featured grid, all done through configuration, through the features options here. And you can do as much as you want or as little as you want. But the point is, you never have to worry about configuring your grids again. We do it all for you through the app builder. So with that, we're going to wrap this up. We're right at 30 minutes. Let me switch back to me full screen. Green screen here. So Brian, it looks like you've been answering all the questions. And so, yeah, like honestly, all you need to do is for this happened in the last week too. We got a lot of questions about, oh, what about server side and what about remote? So like here, if I type in remote, just go to the remote data operations help topic. And no one does remote like we do remote, and no one does virtualization like we do virtualization. So, of course, I work at Infragistics, and I think we do everything the best, but we have all of that taken care of for you within the grid. So if you don't want to use our built-in filtering or built-in sorting, we let you override all those events, do whatever you want. And you'll notice here as I'm clicking, this is a virtual grid that's a continuous scroll. There's another guy here, which as I'm clicking down, you'll notice that it's going to get more data paging from the server. So we're grabbing page chunks and displaying data, and then we're rendering it on the fly for you. Different than other competitors on the market where they're not even doing that. Their screen just goes blank, and then you're waiting, and then the scroll bar doesn't even adjust correctly. So we support everything from perfect virtualization with infinite scroll, remote sorting, remote grouping, remote paging. Take a look at the remote data operations. Now you'll also notice here 3 topics came up because the data grid, the tree grid, and the hierarchical grid are all the same underlying component. So anything that works in the data grid works in the tree grid and works in the hierarchical grid. The only difference is the way that it renders. So the tree grid renders differently than a flat grid. The data structure is different. And of course, it renders differently than a hierarchical grid. So hierarchical grid, you can have any number of grids underneath grids and master detail scenarios. And basically that's how it works. Why are, yeah. So anything that's the data being displayed, that's how I imported it. So I imported it as a string. It just did that for Northwind. Those customizations is done in code. So I guess you're talking about, custom elements inside the cell. Yeah, it's done in code now, but that's changing. So I don't even know if if Constantine's on the call, but we do have custom cell templates coming soon. So you'll be able to customize that right within the code. So let's see, customized grid cell server side. Yep, we answered that. Got a couple. When do you want to demo form? When you want to demo form builder? So form builder isn't shipping yet. Now, of course, you can create forms. So here, if I go to this guy and I go to my toolbox and I start grabbing something like a text box, and those text boxes can be bound to data. Let me get rid of this, and I can have labels. So all of that can be built and constructed with the just like you would build any form. Like if you were to build it in HTML or in Visual Studio, all the controls are here for you to build whatever you want. What we're adding in the future is the ability for you to like select several fields from your data source and then drag it over, and then it'll just generate it for you. So that's getting to be just like Visual Basic and Windows Forms. So we will be adding that in the future. And do we offer any training? We don't, but we are working on a package of videos now. We already have some online. Brian, I believe, is going to paste in the link to the chat on our YouTube channel. But we are incrementally adding new videos that go into some of these details. Now, to get started, what I would do if I'm just learning this product and I want to explore, I would click New App. And let's say, for example, sample apps. Yeah, let's take a look at this people app. I'm going to click Try Sample. And then what this does is it opens the sample right inside of the app builder. And I can see everything about this, how it was constructed, how the DOM was created, everything, literally. This is a 100% completed app, and then click preview, and then I can, and I can see the code. And if I want to know, like, oh, I'm going to paste this into my own app, right click, copy, paste it in my app. There's so many ways to actually work with this. But that's one way to do it. And then what I'm doing as I become more familiar with the layout system and just doing my own thing, I actually do whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to go back to my projects. I'll do a new app and I'll just do a default layout like a blank. And then, I'll use a blank layout and I will go to the toolbox, and then I'll start dragging controls over, binding data, messing with the layout, and then just seeing what happens. And then I'm constantly publishing to GitHub, and I'm leaving my app running because it's just going to update. You just sync your app with GitHub, and then all of your changes are going to be instant. So you'll actually see the real live Angular app running in real time. Okay, so I think that's it, Brian, huh? Looks like all the questions have been answered. And that's it for today's webinar. The next webinar, we are going to be showing some master detail capabilities with just adding a little bit of code to do master detail. We did an event on that last week, and we'll do it again next week in the webinar, or in 2 weeks. And then next week we have a YouTube Live. And on YouTube Live, I'm not sure what we're going to show in the YouTube Live yet, but it'll be something cool, maybe Adobe XD. We have that running in a beta right now. So we're just going to keep doing these weekly, and then keep looking at our YouTube page to get the latest videos. And also everything that we do on YouTube, we're going to post here on the Discord server. So you'll know when new videos are updated, when new features are posted, etc. And then for this specific release, if we go over here and we go to Learn and Support and we go to blogs, let's see, here we go. Indigo.Design App Builder September release. So this Zdravko, who's the team lead on this product, posted this yesterday, and it talks about the new features, and we'll just continue to do this as we do these monthly builds. Oh, this is kind of neat. I should mention this. We added GitHub Actions now. So when you publish to GitHub, and what you'll notice now is you've got GitHub Actions that are set up for your CI build. So we're doing that automatically now with GitHub and GitHub Actions. So that's actually pretty slick. And really neat. Some improvements here and there, bug fixes, etc. And always keep an eye on our docs. Our docs are always getting upgraded and improved. Yeah, that's it. So thank you everyone for attending today. It looks like we've answered everything. All right, so that, I think we'll wrap it up. We're already 15 minutes over. It looks like a lot of people stayed on. I really appreciate it. Keep an eye out for the emails coming from us for the recorded versions. And then of course, take a look at our, or shoot us an email if you have any questions or you want to see a demo, especially if you want to start comparing us to competitors like PrimeNG or AG Grid or whatever. We'd love to talk to you about that. So thanks again, everyone. I really appreciate your time today. And keep an eye out for the next webinar.